So, hi, I'm Kendall Tyler, the host of the SAP Press Book Club. And so we have the best time doing these events. And the next book that we're doing is, well, this book, not next, the book that we're doing is Available to Promise with SAP S for HANA. And we have the two guys who wrote the book here with us. Both of them are from SAP. And so they are, let's see if we can get this right, Sujeet and, who do I have here? I do have Sujeet and I had Sandeep. Two S guys. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about what you do at SAP?
Sure. So hello, everyone. So my name is Sujeet Acharya. I'm part of SAP for last 19 years, all of them in the supply chain area. And I am currently part of the DSC, the Digital Supply Chain Solution Management Organization, and I am responsible as the solution owner for the ATP topic. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'm Sandeep Mandhana, been part of SAP for 16 years, and I'm part of the customer success organization, work very closely with customers from different industries with them on how they can transform their supply chain. So that's been my role in SAP.
Well, that's actually kind of fun. I mean, who doesn't like supply chain? I mean, you got to get something. Where's it coming from? So this, the book that you guys wrote is this your first book or second book or?
This is our first book.
First book.
Ah.
But hopefully not the last.
Yay! Oh, I love this. So I was actually giving them some grief before we got on the call because they have cupcakes on their books, and I was like, "Did y'all make those? Those look yummy." And they were like, "No." So we'll have to do a funnier picture next time. They look delicious, so don't do the cupcakes. So anywho, we have a bunch of questions and I know everybody's wondering what I'm going to ask, but I love to ask the, what's the thing that everybody wants to know? Well, here's one thing that I would like to know. So what is SAP Available to Promise ATP? What is it?
Okay, so let's see. Whenever you want to purchase something nowadays, what do? You go to a mobile app or an e-commerce website, right? Mm-hmm. And then you choose the product that you want to buy, and then you place the order. And few seconds later, or sometimes immediately, you get a confirmation message that the order has been confirmed, and you are going to get this product on so-and-so date at your doorstep. How does this happen? How does this magic happen? That whenever you place the order, the system checks that how much inventory is available to meet your demand, right? Mm-hmm. It also checks that, okay, whether other customers have also asked for the same product that you are asking for. And also it checks that, okay, if there are not enough inventory, then look for future supplies that can meet your demand. And last but not the least, it looks at the logistics required to meet your requirement or to meet your demand in real time, right? Mm-hmm. So all these things has to be checked. So the system checks all these in a matter of seconds and provides you a confirmation time and date when you can realistically expect the product to be delivered at your doorstep. This process is known as order promising, or better known in its technical name as available to promise. Makes sense?
Interesting. So why is ATP important for companies?
Well, interesting question. I think in general, I mean, we have seen supply chain disruptions, right? I mean, supply chain disruption as a concept or as a phenomena is not something new, but what has happened in the last 4 years is that we have seen supply chain disruptions going to the next level. We have seen disruptions on the demand side. For example, during COVID, certain pack sizes, the demand for certain pack sizes went up like anything. Or from a supply side, we have seen, for example, blockage in the Suez Canal. We are seeing geopolitical tensions. We are seeing shortage of key raw materials, whether it is the chips, semiconductors, or even the key starting materials for the pharmaceutical companies. And looks like these disruptions are here to stay. I don't think they're going to go away. Now that puts a lot of pressure on companies to be able to provide a promise date to the customers. And when I say customers, it could be customers like you and me, the end consumers, or it could also be companies which are in the business of manufacturing and selling products. Today, the customers are willing to wait. If you tell them that, hey, you know what, it's going to take a couple of days. So yeah, as a customer, you would be willing to wait. But then you want to be sure that you are going to deliver after a couple of days, right? So that
how about
reliable.
You guys were talking to me about when that boat sank with all those expensive cars on it. And,
Correct.
you know, oh my gosh, can you imagine you had the last rare Porsche coming out and it's down in the bottom of the sea and they've stopped the entire, you know, they stopped their whole manufacturing line of those colors and to things. So to make it so that their customers got their product, they had to go back and redo everything. Talk about, you know, supply chain.
Right. So today, in this VUCA world, that reliable promise date is absolutely, absolutely important. Now, let's take a couple of examples. A pharma company has to provide a reliable promise date to its customer. Now, imagine that if a pharma company is not able to do that, it can have far-reaching implications. For example, let's say it can impact the vaccination program by WHO, right? Or let's take an example which is possibly even closer to us. You want to give a gift to your loved one, and you would want to know when that gift will be delivered, right? Now, imagine if that gift is not delivered on time, the experience that you want to provide will completely turn south.
Yeah, it's awful. I want flowers on, you know, a certain day, not later. And don't tell me that it wasn't your fault.
Yeah. Correct. So today, providing that reliable promise date is a major, major ask by various companies. And it's actually turning out to be a competitive differentiation that is really setting one company apart than the other. So that's why the order promising is very, very critical for the companies today.
Wasn't SAP before it never got to tracking to someone's doorstep, but now it is? Is that right?
We also have functionalities which is looking at tracking at the doorstep, but that is not what ATP is all about. ATP is trying to see that, okay, whether I have the stock to confirm your orders or not, right? And looking at other customers who are asking for the same product or not. So the example that we gave, right? So gift to a loved one or or you are ordering from a mobile app. This is just one example when one customer is ordering for one product. Imagine if you're a company which is getting hundreds of orders every second, thousands of orders every minute, or hundreds of thousands of orders every day, then you need to manage all these orders, provide accurate confirmation date to all these customers without over-promising, looking at all the inventory. Yeah, so you need to do that.
One thing I noticed, I was pretty impressed. So like if I'm looking for a dress at a particular store, I've actually noticed the retailers are putting those dresses in their local retail stores and being able to say that retail store has it and then ship direct from that retail store to me instead of it going through a warehouse. So it's almost like their stores are their warehouses for inventory.
So this is the latest trend that, okay, you are doing an omni-channel fulfillment. You are not looking at the confirmation only from one distribution center or a plant, but rather you are looking at your entire network where the stocks are, right? So that is what the beauty of the new ATP process is.
So when and how do companies use it?
So when your supply is more than the demand, right? You have abundant supply, and any customer can want anytime whatever they need, and they get it. So in those cases, probably you do not need an availability check, right? Because you have ample supply and you get whatever you want. But that's not the case. All the time you will see that demand is much more than the supply. So in those cases, you need additional constraints to be considered when you are doing the order confirmation. Let me give you an example. The COVID times, if you remember, the COVID times are not too far away, but sometimes it looks like, okay, years back, eons back, but it is not too far away. Just 3 years back, we were all locked down in our respective rooms. But if you remember those times, so the essential items went off the shelf as soon as we replenished them, like
the toilet paper,
sanitizer, toilet papers. toilet paper, hand sanitizers,
Crazy.
essential, the drugs, some of the essential drugs, those went off the shelf. And if you are by any chance in the back of the queue, right, most likely you are not going to get anything, right?
No.
So what do the retailer did, right? So what did they do is they put a restriction. So now availability is not only constraint. So put a restriction saying that, okay, no customer can take more than 2 bottles of hand sanitizer per
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, I heard about
You
that. They were
remember?
like, they're only allotted this amount of product from each
Exactly.
one so that they could spread it out to everybody.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So now you see that availability is not the only constraint. You are putting another constraint saying that, okay, there is an upper limit, right?
Mhm.
So this becomes very complicated when you have hundreds of thousands of orders coming to you every day, right? From different
Yeah.
customers. So you have priority customers. Some customers are bullies and some customers are the regular customers. Some customer orders are profitable and some are not so profitable. So you need to prioritize, you need to look at the allocation. So this is where you need the advanced capabilities that you during the order promising.
So how does SAP help these companies to use ATP?
Yes, so ATP is
ATP in their business process.
ATP and aATP, you are absolutely right. There are 2 flavors. So there are 2 flavors of ATP in SAP, and it's not really a new concept. We had the ATP solution in the core of ECC for a long time, and now the S/4HANA is our flagship enterprise solution application. So where we have both flavors, this basic ATP, the standard ATP, and advanced ATP part of S/4HANA. So the standard ATP is doing the availability check, simple availability check, either online, that means as soon as you place an order, it gives you a confirmation, or many companies, what they do is that, okay, they collect all the orders throughout the day, and in the night they run a batch job and to confirm the orders. So which is like a rescheduling or backend processing, as we call it. So these are like the core functionalities, but if you need additional advanced functionalities like product allocation that I talked about, or substitution, location substitution.
So there's ATP, and then there's aATP.
Advanced ATP.
Everybody remember that.
Advanced
ATP, and then ATP. So what is advanced ATP?
ATP. So as I said, that, okay, the simple ATP is looking at just the constraint of availability and confirming either online or offline. But if you need this additional constraint where you supply is less than the demand, then you need to consider the business priorities, business rules, supply chain constraint, transportation constraints, your profitability goals. All these things come into picture. So you need to put some additional layer above your ATP process, and that is what is covered in the advanced ATP. Yeah.
Interesting. Because I mean, even like customs, sometimes it could take longer in customs for one particular thing. So people could say, don't buy it, don't pull from that particular region, let's pull from this region.
Exactly.
Based on, just things like that. I'm trying to think of all these crazy ideas. Boy, I tell you, when I do my online shopping, I usually check all of these things, make sure I'm getting my product. All right, so what are the typical best practices customers should keep in mind when they are implementing ATP in SAP S/4HANA?
Right. So I think from an implementation standpoint, if you ask me, the way the solution has been designed, it is very, very simple. Everything is this configuration. So I think more than how to implement the tool or the solution, what the companies really need to look for is they need to understand what is the order promising philosophy that they do have. Do they really want to provide a real-time promise check? Or as Sujeet was saying, maybe I want to run a bad job multiple times a day, wherein I want to consolidate all the orders, I want to reprioritize and then provide the promise date. Then is my order promising philosophy says that, do I need to put some kind of a check on top of that, like the toilet paper example or sanitizer example that we were talking about? Does my philosophy say that, okay, if a customer comes to me for a specific, say, a retailer, and if that is not available, can I propose the customer that, hey, you know what, let's say the dress that you want is available with another retailer and I'll get that from you, right? So there are, so first of all, the company needs to really understand what is the order promising philosophy that they do have. And it is also important because it really touches the core of your business, which is the sales. It really touches your end customer. And that's why these aspects are more important than the solution itself. The solution is quite simple, easy to configure. So I don't think there would be any challenges as far as implementing the solution is concerned.
Is it their industry specific ATP, or is it industry specific once you get into aATP? Right. Are there bolt-ons or add-ons, or I don't know? I was just curious about that.
So that's a good point, Kendall. So what happens is that every industry has its own nuances. I mean, the way, for example, a high-tech industry works is different than the way an automotive industry works, or different than a retail industry works, and very different than a steel industry works. So each of them have their own nuances with regards to how they would want to provide promise to their customers. The beauty is all these industry-specific capabilities are available within the solution without installing any add-on, or typically in SAP, we call it as you need to activate the switch. But here you don't even have that. So what that basically means is that if a functionality was delivered for, say, a fashion industry, but an automotive industry thinks that, oh yes, this functionality looks interesting and I could possibly use it, then absolutely you can use it.
Interesting. Okay. So can customers enhance the capabilities of ATP?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, since you're talking about the customer facing, now generally what happens is that the customer is not going to log into your ERP system, right? You will provide some kind of a commerce platform or some kind of a mobile app or some kind of a portal wherein customer would actually log in and say that, hey, you know what, I want so-and-so and by this date.
Customer
so which basically
experience.
means, yes, absolutely. Experience. Now, what that means is that whatever is the front end or the portal that the customer, you are providing to your customer, that needs to talk to the S/4HANA system. So we have provided APIs so that we can integrate with the customer-facing portals such as SAP Cloud for Customer, and then which can check this and provide a promise state to the end customer right at the place where they are. So that's one example. The second example is we have also provided a lot of user exits or customer exits, as we typically call it in the SAP parlance, which allows the companies to influence the kind of allocation logics that they would want to have, which allows them to say, for example, bring in the allocation data from a planning system such as SAP Integrated Business Planning, or which allows them, so for example, let's say I have multiple options from where I can get the supplies, but from where do I get, how do I make that decision? So we have provided user exits wherein you can write your own business logic. Do I want to do it based on cost? Do I want to do it based on time? And so on and so forth. And with that, you can influence the logic that the order promising provides.
Love the fact that SAP opened it up to allow all different applications to be able to be integrated in, so that you have the one, they always say, what's the one thing that is you always know what it is. It's the data, follow that data, and boy, he can tell you a lot.
To add to what Sandeep has said, that ATP is available in all deployment option of S/4HANA, right? As we know that S/4HANA can be deployed in the on-prem version, in the private cloud version, and in the public cloud version, and ATP is available in all these versions. And good thing is that all these extensibility are also available in all versions, right? So the customers can use this extensibility.
Oh, I know. I also with apps, I've noticed that a lot of companies are having their own apps where you can track and follow what's happening on that as well. So I guess it's being completely, open to, everybody.
Yes.
Wow. So let's talk about how does this, let's talk about your book with ATP. So now how does this book help people that are using it, ATP and looking to implement? Let's say I'm an ECC guy and we're talking about going S4, and I'm like, well, what's the difference here? And, So what am I going to experience, and how can this book help me with my new S4 adventure?
Good. So the objective of writing this book for us was because ATP is a completely new solution to provide a comprehensive guide to advanced ATP, right? And it is it can be used by the IT consultants or business users in different companies, especially in the supply chain or order to cash processes who are dealing with order promising. And so this is how we have structured the book. Right. So the first, in the initial chapter, we have given an overview of the ATP in different business process and industry scenarios. We have talked about the evolution of ATP inside of SAP, right? So we started with SAP ECC, then we had a sophisticated ATP functionality in our flagship supply chain planning solution, APO, Advanced Planning and Optimization. It was called GATP, Global Available to Promise. And now we have the S4HANA Advanced ATP. We talked about the evolution, the functional differences, and when to use what, and so on. We have also given the
so did they rename stuff from?
No.
Okay,
so
just checking.
If it is a completely new solution, we have not copied from the global ATP. Some of the philosophies used in global ATP are very similar in advanced ATP, but we have not copied.
So it's not like, oh yeah, so this used to be, now it's renamed and packaged this
No,
way.
it is not renamed or repackaged. Okay. It is completely rebuilt from the scratch because we wanted to use the architecture and the capabilities of S4HANA. It has to be integral part of S4HANA. There are no need for any additional master data, which is already present in S4HANA, right? So of course, there are ATP specific data, but most of the data, the sales order, the purchase order, the plant order, all the stock information, whatever there is in S4HANA, we do not need to replicate or integrate with other systems. Everything is in S4HANA. So it is a completely re-architected new solution. So as I was saying that, okay, we gave all those capabilities in the book. And also we have chapters where we describe all the key functionality in detail, right? Talking about the business scenario, they can be used. And we have also gone through the steps that are required to configure that particular scenario, talk about do's and don'ts and best practices and so on. So in a nutshell, I would say this book can be used by both experienced ATP consultants who have some experience in the previous versions of ATP, and also the new customers or the new consultants in the order to cash process or supply chain who want to implement ATP. Yeah, so both of them can use that.
So that's one thing I liked with your book. It's different than most that we've done. This book can be someone that's just wants high overview, understanding of what it is, kind of where it's at. And yet it's also deep enough where you're showing about configuration and what to do. And a lot of the books that we've done haven't done that because they've mainly been like business users. So this particular book, if you're a functional business analyst, within IT and so forth, you can actually use this and help your, to do your job. So
Kendall, there is a reason. There is a reason behind it. Now, if you look at the profile of all three of us, so Sujeet, as you know, he's from solution management. He works very closely with the development. At the same time, he works closely with the customer. So he brings in that perspective. GB, the third author, he's the development architect for the advanced ATP. So he brings in all the required technical knowledge. And in my role, I work closely with companies across automotive, high-tech, industrial manufacturing, or steel or textile. So I bring in that customer perspective. So if you look at our three profiles, so we have the technical aspect, the architect, we have the customer side, the partner side, and the business side, all coming together in this one book.
That's great. That's a great perspective. And I hope everybody, buys the book so that they can kind of see how everything's, how it all works and fits together. So good job, guys. Love that. Love that. So, well, let's talk about like a particular situation within ATP that you guys were challenged with. Maybe a customer came to you and said, oh my gosh, this happened and what do we do? Or, maybe something like our business is not doing well. And you guys said, well, if you did this, boy, this is what will fix it. Y'all been up against any customers like that?
Many, but maybe Sandeep, you can start and then I can join in.
Yeah, I can give one example. So recently I was working with an internet company, the company whose business model was direct to customer. Right? So you launch a website and you're working directly with the customer rather than going to a traditional model of you have distributors and dealers and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So when this company started their operations, they really wanted to provide a competitive differentiation in the market, but they weren't very sure how to go about this. And they reached out to us and they said that, look, what can we guys really do? And they said that, look, our business aspirations are that in next 1 year, we want to triple our revenue. I mean, it's a startup, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're saying about 3x, 5x, 10x, it's like, yeah, it's just like no big deal. I mean, we can do that just like that. So while we were working with them, we understood their business aspirations and we said that, look, I think we strongly believe that if you want to bring in a competitive differentiation, I think this solution can really, really help you. This solution can really help you increase your revenue. This solution can really help you to bring in the customer satisfaction and the customer loyalty that is really needed. So very interesting conversation that I had with them.
Yeah, if you can keep your promises. So basically, as I was looking at the Seinfeld example where they say that, okay, anybody can make a promise, but keeping the promise is important, right?
Yes.
Right. So that is all about ATP, right? So it's not that, okay, I am just promising based on some old data or some guesswork, but I am promising accurately to you so that I can keep my promise, and that is what ATP is all about.
Yeah, because like, how about all those cars that need chips and they're not running? That's
Just
huge right
semiconductor
there.
prices, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people want to know when they're getting the cars, and they, or can you find it from somewhere else? That's also looking around trying to make sure that you're, what you promised is going to be delivered. That kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So that makes or breaks a company, right? Because so imagine that, okay, in a scenario that, okay, you are a car manufacturer, right? And now you need the tires coming from another company. So your car cannot be delivered to your customer if you do not get the 4 tires, right? Or 5 tires if you have the spare ones, right? So the promise, so there are 2 promises involved here, right? The first promise is coming from the tire manufacturer to this car, to the car manufacturer, and the car manufacturer has also promised to the dealers, which is now giving the car to the end customer, right? So there are 2 promises, and break in one promise actually changes the entire chain, right? So in the B2B business where these kind of promises are very, very important, and imagine that, okay, we are not talking about customers getting 1 or 2 orders, right? So like the big companies get hundreds of thousands of orders every day. If you are so the biggest mobile manufacturer actually use advanced ATP, right? In the world, the biggest mobile manufacturer, they use advanced ATP. And now the question is that they are getting hundreds of thousands of orders every day, and they have to find the allocation. They need to protect their customer interest. And most importantly, one of the key functionality is when you're looking for substitutes, right?
Yeah.
If the stocks are not available in one location, can I get it from somewhere else? Or if the stock is not available for one particular configuration, is the customer willing to take another configuration, right? So those substitutions are also very important when you're
also when you're looking at those substitutions, does it show like does purchasing have like, this is a good, preferred customer, or has quality control said, oh my God, they have terrible product, don't buy from them? So I mean, I'm sure everything's
so this is very interesting. So most, as I said, that, okay, if you are dealing with 5 orders a day, probably you need to look at manually, but automatically these things would happen. And now choosing what is the best substitution is a challenge, right? And this could be different for different customers, right? So that what is the best substitution, this you can configure. We have models where you can configure that what is the best substitution for a particular business case. Certain customers you want to deal in a different way, other customers you want to deal with a different way. All this flexibility of how the substitutions are happening can also be configured in advanced ATP.
Interesting. Well, that's pretty cool. So how about we open it up to everybody and we will let you ask them some questions. and see what comes out of this. We have a chat, and so you can put the questions in the chat, and we can figure out what you need to know. And all right, so here's one. Where do we see doorstep visibility in SAP, the last mile delivery?
Not in advanced ATP. So we have a track and trace functionality. So the promising part is done by ATP, but the tracking and tracing is functional. We have a track and trace functionality in our logistics business network. And using that, you can also see you can track that when the products are getting.
So it's in the logistics. So it's in
the logistics area. Yes, it's not
logistics
in ATP
business
area.
network.
Yeah.
Logistics, say it again, Cindy.
Logistics business network.
Logistics Business Network. Okay, let's remember that one.
LBN. Yeah, we call it LBN, Logistics Business. In SAP, everything is 3-letter acronym. So.
Okay, here we go. If I'm running a high volume retail website, I would not want my ERP system in line with the ordering process. So is an aATP available as a standalone system?
No, so we have a layer in between, right? So if you have a completely retail kind of environment where you are selling it from available to sell concept, so we have a layer. So we have something known as this card, this customer activity repository, which is not directly touching the S4HANA system, but then you can pull in the data from S4HANA system from ATP and put it in the card, and then your retail system can directly integrate with card. So that is available.
Yes, so what he's talking about is SAP CAR, C-A-R.
Yeah, C-A-R. Customer Activity Repository. Again, three-letter acronym.
I don't know about that. So what are the options for customer BAPIs or user exits in aATP? Got to get the AA in there.
Right. So I think in terms of the user exits, I did mention that we have user exits available for product allocation. We have user exits available for alternative determination. I mean, these are just a couple of them to give you some perspective. But when it comes to APIs, there are a whole lot of APIs available. And in fact, when it comes to SAP, all the APIs are published on api.sap.com, where you could look at all the APIs that are published by SAP, whether it is for advanced ATP or for other solution areas as well. So we have made APIs available for bringing in the allocation data from a planning system into the S4. We have APIs available if you want to do the product availability check from an ordering system into S4, and so on and so forth. So there are a whole lot of APIs and user exits that are available.
Gracious.
And to add to that, okay, advanced ATP is an evolving solution. It's quite mature because the first version came in 2016. So already 8 to 9 years, we have the solution in the system. However, we are not closer to the end. So we are still developing a lot of functionalities. I would request you, in the book itself, we have a roadmaps chapter where we talked about what are the functionality that we can expect in the next releases, and also what is the vision, right? So we have great plans with machine learning and with all the latest buzzwords that you have. We have plans to use those in advanced ATP, but those things will come in future. So I request everyone who are interested in the solution, please go through the roadmap, official roadmap, and see the functionalities. But also, if you official roadmap, we only talk about what is definitely coming in the next, because again,
so you're giving us some tips. So things coming up are going to be one.
Yeah, so things. I do not want to do some spoiler, but the point is that our vision of what we expect ATP to evolve in next 3 or 4 or 5 years. We have put a chapter in that book. Again, this is not an official communication, so there is no guarantee, but we have put a vision there.
Yeah, we need to.
That's the last chapter.
Oh, I see it. It's chapter 13. I'll be reading that. So, definitely. I know. And here's another one. Okay. Is ATP only integrated with S/4HANA and Cloud for Customer? What other integrations are possible? Can I integrate with Ariba, for example?
So ATP is an integral part of S/4HANA. It is not an integrated solution. It is built inside of S/4HANA. It is technically part of the core.
Part of the core mothership, as we like to say.
So now, of course, S/4HANA can be connected to multiple systems, right? So it can be connected to Ariba, it can be connected to IBP, it can be connected to multiple systems. So indirectly, ATP is also connected to multiple systems as well. There are also some plans to do direct integration. For example, we are currently working on a topic where ATP will be directly integrated with transportation management, TM solution. All right. So that means when an order comes, so not only you are looking at all the ATP constraint, but also you are going and checking the transportation constraint. For example, even if you have a lot of stocks, imagine that, okay, your warehouse is full of stock, but the transportation has gone on a strike. They cannot ship anything. So that means you cannot promise to your customer that, okay, this order can be delivered in this day because the transportation team has gone into strike, right? There are no trucks available, right? So that is possible when ATP is now integrated with TM. And that particular functionality is coming, but yes, ATP can be integrated with other applications via S4. Now, we are also working with some.
Is it like if you had a big four-wheeler tractor trailer and you're putting product on and you're like, okay, how many more do we have to put before we can send the guy off? Or, you know, can we squeeze that last box in there? I mean, is that kind of like tracking that?
Right? So we have something known as capacity allocation, where we can take the maximum limit of the truckload and try to see that, okay, when the ATP can confirm that, right? So we have that functionality, but it will be much more sophisticated when TM integration come into picture, right? So ATP TM integration is again, I'm not going to tell, but if you go to the most likely next year it is going to come.
Excellent. All right. So how many customers have already adapted to this?
Oh, so interesting question. So we have, so as I said, that ATP is available in all three different deployment options: on-prem, private cloud, and public cloud. And if I just look at the customer who are licensed for advanced ATP, so we have more than 800 customers already licensed for advanced ATP. Half of them are already live, and the remaining are in the process of implementation, right? So
that's global.
So that's globally, yeah. So I'm talking about advanced ATP. So the basic ATP, the standard ATP functionalities are used by thousands of customers. Yeah.
Gracious, a lot of tracking. Whew. In the new advanced ATP solution, is order promising over multiple SAP instances possible?
No.
Ooh.
Good question, very good question. It's a tough question. Thank you very much for this question. Because in our previous version, the ATP solution, it was possible to connect to multiple ERP or ECC system and do a global ATP check. We realized that, okay, very few customers actually do the global ATP check, right? So they do predominantly the check inside the ERP, because when you're doing a global check, then you have to do transport between two different ERP systems, right? So we wanted to make ATP closer to S/4HANA, right, in the execution system. That's the reason why, and that's the reason why we are reaching out to more and more customers. There is no, currently it is not possible to connect to multiple ERP system and work on the single ATP ERP, single S/4HANA advanced ATP system. However, in future, when we enable the APIs, which can actually do one complete ATP check and do the reservation, at that point of time, this multi-ERP check, some kind of multi-ERP check would be possible. It might not be exactly the same way how APO GATP was doing, but then with this new API, which is coming in next releases, I do not know exactly which release, but then this will be possible in future.
So would you put a car solution on every instance of SAP?
No. Car solution is typically used by the retail customers, right? Because they have this the cart, right? So you go to an Amazon and then you put the products in the cart and you delete it, and also where you are looking at available to sell thing, right? So that is where you need the card. But most of the customer in the B2B business or even the e-commerce B2C business, they are directly interacting with advanced ATP or ATP. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Could you elaborate a bit on possibilities to include customer segmentation in advanced ATP? For example, premium customers are allowed to consume from inventory, while business as usual customers are treated as make to order. Can we read it again?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that question. Yeah. So it is pretty much possible. So while you are looking at how you would want to treat different customers, so yes, that is possible. So what you could do is that you could say that, yeah, I mean, if I have premium customers, then yes, I would like to service them from the inventory that I have, but for others, I would like to service them from the future supplies that are available, but not necessarily from the inventory, because I want to keep that inventory reserved for the premium customers.
So,
but make to order. So I just want to add to what Sandeep said. As far as make to order is concerned, because that's a very interesting topic, because most of the customers actually use ATP for the make to stock environment, right? But we also support make to order, because make to order is that, okay, when you are assembling the different components or you are procuring the components and then doing the manufacturing and then confirming after you have received the order, right? So there is no inventory available. So what happens is that whenever this order comes, then ATP needs to connect to the manufacturing system, because the manufacturing planning happens not in ATP, but in another system. And in our case, the S4HANA manufacturing for planning and scheduling. So which was the earlier PPDS that was connected to ATP, advanced ATP. And now when the sales order comes, of course, there are no stocks available. So then it goes to PPDS and it says, that, okay, these are the components that are available. These are the resources that is available. So you know what, I can produce it. So it creates a planned order, and this confirmation date goes back to the customer, right? So this is already available, and this is known as supply creation based confirmation. So this was the latest functionality that we released it. So interesting thing was when we were writing this book, at that point of time, this functionality was not released. So we were writing it, anticipating that, okay, this functionality will get released, and fortunately, this functionality got released. So,
so we did not have to make edits to the book.
Yes. So how many? I was thinking about this. When you talk about ATP, it touches a lot of different areas within SAP, and and also external systems as well. So within SAP, what do you think it's touching? Where is it touching? ATP is touching different areas, like in finance, it's touching.
It's predominantly in the part of the order to cash process, primarily in the SD. So when you have the sales order coming into picture, then you do the ATP check. Also, it can be checked internally, stock transport orders and so on, right? Not necessarily only SD. Some customers do not sell it. For example, we have defense customers, right? They do not sell any product, right? They just ship products from one location to other locations, right? So so the big armies of the world actually use the previous version of ATP and also advanced ATP to make sure that, okay, the orders are reaching to their different destinations in time. So we have all those functionalities there, and also deliveries. During delivery, you can also do an ATP check. So the ATP checks are done at multiple stages. Means PP, we have it, PP and MM and SD, and
Okay, here's another one. Are there possibilities in advanced ATP for upselling? For example, material is not available in a 250K kilogram bag, but is available in like a 50-kilogram bag.
Yeah. So
that's a good idea.
That is possible.
If you buy this one dress, you get 50% off. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so that is possible. So we call that as product substitution, which is basically to say that, if a customer is asking for 250 kgs, but if I don't have that pack size available, then can I give 5 or 50 kgs?
Yeah.
Right. So that is pretty much possible. And it's, I mean, this scenario is quite prominent in the, I would say, in the CPG industry, where for the same product, you have various pack sizes, right? So this is a very, very common scenario.
So different amounts packaged, and then they'll say, well, I want, like, this is 10 and 10, but I wanted 20.
Yep.
And you're like, well, the 20 bag is gone. So will you take 2 10s instead?
Exactly.
That kind of thing? Okay.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. I wish the pharmacies would know about that. They don't seem to understand that. Let's see. Here we go. And in my company, some of our materials are only created the moment we ship the material process order related to an outbound delivery. Thus, ATP always fails because the finished product is never on stock or planned for. But the semi-finished material is a stockable and plannable material and is basically where we want the ATP run for. So a bill of material item. Any insight?
Sandeep, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a very long question. And it's talking about a very specific use case. So possibly, I mean, difficult to provide an answer at this moment, but maybe Sujeet, one use case that comes to my mind here is the multi-level availability check. That's one of the use cases, right? Wherein if, let's say, I don't have the product available, but can I at least go and check whether I have the bill of material components available? And if I have the bill of material components available, then from there, I can figure out what is the promised date. So maybe you want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, so the multi-level ATP is currently not available in S/4HANA Advanced ATP. However, it is in our roadmap and we are working on that. So it will come in future. But meanwhile, you can use the supply creation based confirmation. So what happens is that where the sales orders are received and then you do not have the finished product, it goes to the manufacturing, and there you just say that, okay, if resource is not a constraint, if capacity is not a constraint, so then you can make it infinite capacity. But there also you can do a component check that, okay, the components are available, and based on these components, I can confirm the order. If the components are not available, then also you can create some kind of procurement orders for those components to come. And based on the procurement orders, you can also confirm the order. So this is a possibility using supply creation based confirmation.
I would like to run a Signavio check on them to make sure they're doing the business processes right.
Yeah, I agree.
Call me and I'll help you with that. I don't know who this person is, so, but that would be my suggestion to do that, so that they know what they're, they might be missing. You guys might be missing out on something, you don't know it. So, so anyway, the next one is S/4HANA is reported to affect the user community at companies more than any other system of record for SAP ERP. What is the impact of aATP on the company's user community?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
Yeah.
So S/4HANA is reported to affect the user community at companies more than other systems of record. So obviously affecting the user community probably means either it's a good or a negative effect. So what is the impact of aATP on the company's user community? Is it a benefit, or do you think it will help them, make them more motivated, or?
So I to be honest, I do not claim that I have understood the question correctly, but I will try to answer it the way I have understood it. Of course, advanced ATP is a value proposition, right? So when the customers are moving from ECC to S/4HANA, so previously these advanced capabilities of ATP were outside of the ECC system. We had an APO, so customer had to use APO, which is in a side system, and then you have to work on the integration, you have to work on the data replication, and it's a completely different system altogether. So it was a cumbersome process.
In ECC, it was, you had to connect APO.
Yeah, to get that. But now in S4, this is part of the core itself. The day you start S4, advanced ATP is available there itself. And as Sandeep has mentioned, when he discussed about the implementation, especially for the simple cases, is fairly straightforward. Yeah, so we have tried to make it as simple as possible, right, for customers to use it. And so we are seeing a lot of positive feedback from our customers, to be honest, regarding, because they have seen the difficulties in the previous solution, right? Because our own solution, because we know the pain what the customers have gone through to implement the solution, and we have tried to address that in the advanced ATP, so that the user, the business user, end user who are using the solution should get it as hassle-free as possible.
Yeah.
So that is what we have tried, and we are still trying to improve it and enhance it. Yeah.
Y'all should do like a little thing. Okay, for ECC guys, what did you think? Now you're S4, what do you think? I'm sure there'll be thumbs up on S4 part. Okay, so here's the next one. Can I use aATP for certain products only?
Yes, of course.
Yep.
That's
So
it
possible.
completely depends
Yes.
on what.
Well, that was easy. Can we set up the product allocation data in the Manage Product Allocation Planning Data Fiori app? Where does that data get stored? I couldn't find any table where that data gets stored. Say I want to extract the data into a program. Where do I get the data from?
There are APIs which are actually pulling the data from external system to the S4HANA system. There are, of course, database where we store the data. Yeah, means I do not know technically where exactly it is stored to give an answer immediately. But however, if you have my email address, please drop me an email, and then we will try to see that if I can get that answer for you.
And by the way, in the app, there is also Excel download.
Excel
option
download.
as well.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Might help you. Does S4HANA version 1907 support the full version of aATP?
So we started with 1610 release of advanced ATP. In S4HANA, we started with that. So every year we have added a lot of new functionalities. So yes, 1907 does have a lot of functionality, but it is a possibility. Some of the key functionalities that we have described in the book, which was based on the 2022 release, are missing in 1907. For example, I know for sure the product substitution functionality is not there in 1907. The supply protection functionality is not there in 1907. Supply creation based confirmation is not there in 1907. However, as far as product allocation is concerned, the backorder processing is concerned, and the simple product availability check is concerned, are there in 1907. So you can use those things.
What about
One of
RISE?
the best ways, sorry.
RISE, is it in RISE?
Yes.
Yes. It
Is it in GROW?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And I think the person who has asked that question, what you could basically do is that you could just go to help.sap.com and choose the 1909 version there, because the help documentation is structured by the version. So you could just go to the 1909 version, and there you will get to see what capability is available in advanced ATP. That's the easiest way to find out.
There you go. Okay, next question. Does aATP have the old CTP functionality merged with EPPDS?
Yes, exactly. That's what supply creation based confirmation is all about. Supply creation based confirmation is the new name for CTP. Again, it's a new solution. So advanced ATP is connected to the EPPDS, and EPPDS is known as manufacturing, SAP S4HANA manufacturing for planning and scheduling. And so ATP connects to EPPDS and then does the order confirmation. So that is what SBC is all about. And that was released in 2022 last year. And we have an exclusive chapter on that in this book.
So did that go away, PPDS?
No,
Nope.
EPPDS is
No.
absolutely there.
Okay. How mature is aATP compared to gATP? What kind of functionalities can be uncovered compared to gATP for automotive? Who uses SPP?
SPP, service parts planning? Fantastic. Very good question, by the way. So in fact, service parts planning was one of the prominent use cases, especially for product substitution, because they use a lot of interchangeability master data and that do a product substitution because, you know, somebody has bought a car in 1970, now the spare parts have changed over the years. So they need the advanced ATP capability to do the product substitution. So yes, absolutely. So we have enabled advanced ATP to work with ESPP. And for automotive, and then as far as maturity is concerned, of course, APO-GATP being starting from 1999 until 2023, it has been a very mature solution. Though we have not developed many things over the last 7-8 years in GATP. As far as advanced ATP is concerned, it is fairly mature, I would say now, because we started 8 or 9 years back. So if you would have asked this question 5 years back, I would have said that it is not mature enough. But now I would say that, okay, as far as most of the functionalities are concerned, it is mature, but we still have to add a lot of new functionalities. And it means it has a lot of, from the usability point of view, it is much ahead of APO-GATP, much ahead of APO-GATP, performance point of view as well. There are certain functionalities still missing, like multi-level ATP is still missing, which we are currently working on, and the EBOP, the enhanced backend processing, interactive backend processing is something also which is missing, which we are currently working on. So it's an ongoing thing. Hopefully we can have a second version of the book in a couple of years where we can also add the new functionalities. Yeah.
Next year you'll have to. So is aATP only relevant for OTC processes, order to cash?
No, you can do for internal order. Yeah, Sandeep, if you want to take it up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not just for the order to cash processes, the defense example which Sujeet was giving. I mean, there is no order to cash there. It is like you're supplying material from your one base to another base. So you're not selling it, but it is a stock transfer. So it is relevant for such kind of scenarios as well.
So how does aATP benefit in a made-to-order scenario where inventories may be low or even zero? Does this also model capable to promise?
Oh, so we have already have sorry.
Yeah, we have already answered that question, right? So there was a question about capable to promise. So yes, the capable to promise functionality is now available in advanced ATP. It was released in October 2022. So it's already out there.
Perfect. Can you include or exclude specific plants and storage locations where aATP check is done?
Yep. Yes, that is possible.
And is aATP usage a separate license? Ooh.
Yes, it does call for a separate license. That's absolutely right. So though it is not S/4HANA,
but not ATP.
No. ATP comes, yes, it comes along with the S/4HANA license. But if you're looking for advanced ATP, yes, you need to procure the licenses for that.
And is it possible to integrate between aATP and SAP IBP?
Yes.
Yes. So that integration is already available. Yeah.
So
we have the APIs. Yeah, we have the APIs where it's one of the use cases that, okay, product allocation data. That allocation data has to come from the planning system, and IBP is our flagship supply chain planning system, and where you can do the allocation planning. And this planning data has to come to S/4HANA and it be used in advanced ATP. So we have the APIs which can enable you to do that. Yes.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah, and I think if my memory serves right, so this topic has been covered in Chapter 5, product allocation.
Perfect. Okay. So in aATP, can we use CIF functionality?
No need.
We don't need.
We do not need CIF because ATP is part of S4.
There you go. Perfect. Well, that's actually an hour, believe it or not. So I want to thank both of you for having, experiencing this with all of our buddies here at the SAP Press Book Club. And also, if you want to purchase the book, you can get 15% off by Book Club 15 when you order from SAP Press, and you can get 15% off the price of the book. That's my gift to you. So, but thank you again, guys, and thanks everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing everyone again. So thank you and bye.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.